Hello and welcome to the weekly BB Bobcat Breakdown, where a couple of Texas State students dive into the details of Texas State athletic events that occurred each week. With that in mind, the way to learn is by listening, the way to listen is by learning, and the only way to start is by starting. So let's get into it. I'm your host, Luke Fox. I'm a sophomore here at Texas State, and I'm majoring in electronic media.
I'm Tani Lyles. I'm a senior here at Texas State, and I am majoring in digital media innovation.
I'm Grady Elbel. I am a senior here at Texas State University, majoring in electronic media.
I am Fernando Rangel, and I'm also a senior here at Texas State, and I will be majoring in electronic media.
So with this last week, we had a number of very exciting Texas State games. The first one we're going to dive into is the Texas State football comeback. That was a close win over the Louisiana Monroe Warhawks. After that, we're going to go into the Texas State soccer tie with James Madison and win against Old Dominion. After that, we're going to go into the Texas State women's tennis, finishing up the ITA Texas Regional Championships. And then finally, we're going to go into the Texas State volleyball pair of wins over the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. And then we're also going to talk about kind of upcoming basketball and hockey games that have been going on for a little bit or are about to start up their season. So let's get into this first game. So with this Texas State versus the LMU Warhawks, this was a score of 21-20. So very, very close game. And it's really interesting how this game really developed throughout this. It was a halftime, it was 9-7, and then it went up to with the Louisiana Monroe at LMU really coming back and almost taking that win until the last just couple of 4 minutes, I believe it was, where Texas State was able to get 2 touchdowns and was able to come back for that win, making it 20-20 or 21-20 Texas State win. So why do you guys think that Texas State struggled so much against LMU?
Honestly, even Coach Kenny said it himself. He said that he thought we just have a really banged up team right now, and that he just wanted to find a way to win and get to the bye week. There is a lot of players out, and he was saying that that's one of the main reasons he saw that it was such a close game.
And to kind of piggyback off that, the whole performance itself was very, nitty gritty. I described it. Both defenses were very solid throughout the first 3 quarters. Fourth quarter, the defenses kind of took, a quarter off. It was a high scoring fourth quarter for both teams. I believe that the score breakdown for that quarter was 10 in favor of ULM and 12 in favor of Texas State. That's when it kind of started to ramp up a little bit in that quarter. But, both defenses were very stingy throughout the day. Like, in the red zone, very, very well defended from both ends of the field.
I don't know, I just feel like Texas State was just running the same plays over and over after reviewing the footage. So I feel like ULM just found their way on stopping them. Because Texas State, although they did get a lot of yards, those are very few yards they were getting at the time. And I just feel like it took a long time for them to find the end zone on that.
Yeah, going to that, just to add on to your point, Fernando, is that it was really interesting because Texas State really struggled in the beginning. And so we've kind of, in past games and throughout the season, there's been a common trend of Texas State absolutely dominating the first half and then just losing all their air and just struggling that second half. And it was kind of apparent in this game and the other way around because even though it was 9-7, Texas State leading in the first half, where were those points coming from? Those points were all from field goals. And it was really interesting how Madison Shipley just absolutely carried it, went 3 for 3 in field goals in that first half, and was able to keep Texas State in that lead, even though we weren't really getting any touchdowns, which is very uncommon for Texas State, because typically in the past, we've had Texas State just getting those, focusing less on those field goals and just trying to finish it off and getting those touchdowns. And going into that a little bit farther is I thought that Texas State would have an easy win. I'm just really surprised that they struggled so much against this team. Going to LMU only is 2-4 right now, 2 wins, 4 losses for the season, while Texas State is 5-2. And I thought this would be an easy win. And it's going to be really interesting whenever going next game is Troy Trojans is a very harder team to go against. And they're tough. They're also 5-2. So if Texas State struggles this much in this game, if they can't get their act together, they're not going to have a chance against the Detroit Trojans. Yeah, just to go into a little bit more details about this game. Hey, attendance at Texas State, we always encourage, hey, show up to these games. Attendance was at 27,000, over 27,000 people. Very impressive. I congratulate all the people that showed up to give Texas State support and really encourage them. I feel like that is a big part in how they were able to come up with that win. If we show that, hey, Texas State, we have the people, then I think that's really encouraging to the team. Congrats to all the people that showed up. And just go into some stats. We have Joey Hobart. We were losing, or Texas State was losing by quite a number of points, and we didn't get those last 2 touchdowns until the last 4 minutes. Both of them thrown by T.J. Finley to Joey Hobart, who just got those last 2 TDs passes for And it was at the 4-minute 16 mark and 41-second mark in the fourth quarter, and they were trailing by 11 points. It was a 9-20. Whenever they scored, it was 9-14, I believe it was, when LA got their 76-yard interception between Jotarius Evans, and they got an interception going into by throw by T.J. Finley, and they got a 76-yard interception. And at that point, I thought Texas State had lost. I thought it was over. 9-20, only a couple minutes left in this game. I was like, oh well, might as well just stop this listening in. And I was like, wow, I can't believe we lost that. But then, out of a miracle, I would say, Joey Hobart was really able to show up and recover that game, which I think is really important for Texas State if they have any chance of really staying in this conference and be able to make it to playoffs. This game was a big factor into that, so it'll be interesting to see how that really develops.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Even a lot of those factors just it plays into it. The coach was saying how he was not expecting us to be 5-2, like that wasn't a goal, and it's shocking that we were able to do that with the team with a lot of players out, like Calvin Hill, Bo Corrales, Nash Jones, all of them are out due to major injuries. He also was saying he was going to be very heavily recruiting new players during the bye week and focusing on getting the players' academics back up and the injuries healed up. So, that's all in the works for the next game. He also was saying that Troy is one of the hardest teams, and he can't name a better team right now out there in this conference. So that will be very interesting, and I feel like we have to make a lot of changes if we want to pull off a more neck and neck game with that. That's going to be a fight. So especially with the offense, I feel like some stuff needs to happen with the offense in order for us to keep up with Troy.
And I think that's a great segue into that Troy game, because Troy has always been that one in our conference that you're always looking to dethrone. Like, they are the kings of our division in terms of football in the last few years. So I think it's good as well. We were unfortunately without Ismail Mahdi in this last game.
Great receiver, just able to get those yards for Texas State, absolutely.
For sure. And it was also good to see that the people who have been behind Ismail Mahdi in the order, people like Jamil Jeter, people like Calvin Hill, Denario Davenport, they really showed up in that game versus ULM and took that workload. And, although we missed Ismail Mahdi, it was nice to see the other ones get that chance as well and carry that load even when he was absent from this game. And I want to say that in terms of the rushing yards, Denario Davenport had a great game. He had 94 rushing yards.
Yeah, 94 compared to the LMU's, I believe it was 55. So yeah, almost doubling the rushing right there. So very impressive.
Yeah, and also Joey Hobart, 110 receiving yards. That's amazing considering what the score was, and he really showed up in that game like he always has. He's been one of our star players along with Mahdi this season, so it's amazing to see those guys team up this season. But also those guys like Hill, Jamil Jeter, Davenport come through when the team needed them most.
Yeah, looking at total yards, it was 452 Texas State compared to 285. So whenever you're missing those star players, you really have the opportunity to see what everyone else on the team's got to offer. And it's really nice to give them the opportunity to really show what they're made of and see if we're able to, even though we have difficulties, I guess you could say it, we're able to push past those difficulties and really still come up with a win. Very impressive.
And for Texas State, I feel like we're always relying on like our star players, which isn't a good thing because once we come up to Trojan, and they see like we're always using our star players, one injury and they're out, and then like, what is our backup plan for Texas State? So I feel like that's something we have to keep in mind for our upcoming games.
Yeah, absolutely. But in other exciting news, TJ Finley is now one of 5 Sun Belt quarterbacks named on the 2023 Manning Award watch list. This is a big surprise. Very prestigious announcement. He has 98.9 completion percentage, 14 touchdowns, and 3 rushing yards. So he was a great choice, and it did Texas State very proud.
Yeah.
So, that's good news.
That's a great point of really showing the potential that these players have. But I believe that's all that we're going to go about this football game. But yeah, next week, just a reminder, it's a bye week. That will be October 21st. It's a bye week, so don't show up to the Bobcat Stadium for that week. There won't be anyone there. But after that, it's Texas State versus Troy Trojans, as we had mentioned. This will be October 28th at 6 p.m. Home game at the Bobcat Stadium. So we had 27,000 people show up this last game. Let's show up this game and let's beat those numbers. Yeah, Troy Trojans 5-2. Troy's on a 4-win streak right now, going 19-0 Army against Army, 37-3 against Arkansas State, 28-7 against Georgia State. They're just absolutely dominating every single team. They're not giving the other teams a chance. So I'm just really excited to see, hey, will Texas State be able to keep up, go toe-to-toe, neck-to-neck against this team? It'll be a tough game for sure against Troy. So yeah, that'll be October 28th at 6 p.m. Well, let's go into our next game. All right, so we have a pair of 2 games with soccer. We have Texas State versus James Madison that we're going to go into first. This was October 13th, an away game at Harrisonburg at Central Park. So away game, a little bit of a distance away, but going to this, the score was 0-0 with shots on goal for Texas State against 11, and then shots, just general shots 4-11, and then shots on goal was 3-6. But even though it was a scoreless game, which team do you think overall had the offense throughout that game?
I think it was definitely, looking at the stats and looking over the highlights, it was definitely JMU. JMU had 11 shots with 6 on target throughout the game. And a big reason as well that Texas State was able to get a point from this game was Caitlin Draper. Caitlin Draper had 6 saves in this game. She was absolutely clutch for the team, and it showed. She came up with some amazing saves throughout the game, and it ultimately got them a point from this game. I know it's 0-0. You never want to see a 0-0 game, but at the same time, taking something from this game was very important, considering the opposition as well. JMU is a great team.
Yeah, to add on to that point, Caitlin Draper has been absolutely a star player for the Texas State women's soccer team. Like you said, 6 saves, and this was actually her 5th shutout of the season, meaning that no one was able to score on her for the entire game. That's, with how many games that have been going on, that's very impressive for 5 shutouts. Caitlin Draper just absolutely killing it out there. Keep it up.
And on Texas State's side, although it was a 0-0 game, it was great seeing that Texas State was able to have 6 saves, because 6 saves is better than that going on the scoreboard. So having a good defensive side for Texas State was saving us, and a 0-0 is better than having 6-0.
Yeah, can you just imagine that stress on Caitlin Draper going 0-0? Just the ball, because it was such a defensive game for Texas State, that ball was just on Texas State's half half field for almost the entire game. That has got to be so stressful. Just imagine the nerves that Caitlin Draper was going through. And there was even 4 offsides on JMU, and so that just really shows how much that ball was on their side. And yeah, just very crazy how they were able to keep up that 0-0. Very impressive, because James Madison is an impressive team. They're a good team to go against, and so being able to maintain that tie and not fall into a losing category like that, very impressive for Texas State. And yeah, Victoria Meza led Texas State with 2 shots on goal. We haven't really seen a whole ton of Meza these last couple of games, so it's really nice to see her really show up again and for the offense of Texas State. So Do you guys have anything else to add on for that soccer game?
Mentioning Caitlin Draper again, it was actually kind of a historic clean sheet for her as well, because I think I put in my notes that it was her 5th clean sheet of the season, and it was the most since former Bobcat goalkeeper Heather Martin did it.
Yes,
with her 7 over the season.
And that was like in 2019 or something like that.
2019.
That was a number of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's go into this next soccer game. This was Texas State versus Old Dominion, October 19th. This was a home game for at the Bobcat Soccer Complex. And Old Dominion, let me just say, they're at 10 wins, 2 losses, and 3 ties. So very, very impressive. But looking at the score, Texas State came out with the win with a 2-1 score for the Texas State win. And this was also a kick-out cancer game, so everyone was wearing orange for cancer awareness. So a lot of people showed up and really supported that, which is really cool. And it's really interesting because first half and almost all of the second half, it was a clean sheet, 0-0 for the longest time. And it wasn't until the final 10 minutes that Texas State was able to score 1 and Old Dominion scored 1. Texas State scored 2, Old Dominion scored 1. So it wasn't until those last couple of minutes that really the score developed. And I was looking at the score and I was noticing that there was only 1 score done by Lily Erb. And I was like, wait, what happened where's that other score? And I noticed that Old Dominion had actually done a self-goal on themselves. And it was actually the first goal of the game was a self-goal, an own score with Old Dominion, putting a Texas State win or a lead by 1-0. So very interesting to see how that happened. And maybe from that, Old Dominion may have lost a little bit of their confidence for that with those last couple of minutes. And so it really made them stumble, start making mistakes. And really interesting to see how that developed. But with that, Texas State soccer is now ranked 8th in conference, and it was only 2 points away from a 3-way tie for 5th place. So very impressive for Texas State women's soccer. They're right now 8-5-3 for the season, and 3-2-3 for the Sun Belt Conference. So they're keeping up those positive numbers overall, which is always really impressive. And just overall for all sports in Texas State are doing very well so far in this fall season, which is really great to see for Texas State. Do you guys have anything to add for that game?
Nothing to add on the game, but I would also want to say that their next game is a very important game against South Alabama.
Yes.
South Alabama is top of their conference, their divisional conference right now. Their top, Texas State, is in 3rd. South Alabama are 6-0-2 in conference play. So they're going to be a very formidable opponent come next game.
Going to their history, going against Texas State versus South Alabama history, it's a 1-8-2. That means Texas State has only beaten them once, lost 8 times, and is tied twice. Texas State women's soccer is currently on a 3-loss streak, so very tough. But I think that with how our team is doing so far, I think that maybe we'll be able to come up with another win. We've done it once before. I think the Texas State women's soccer team can bring out another win. They've been doing really great, so it'll be really interesting to see how that next game develops. That'll be Sunday, October 22nd. That's going to be an away game at Alabama, so it'll be hard to show support for that one, but hey, keep them in mind. So yeah, interesting game. So let's go into our next sport. Next up, we have women's tennis, and they closed off their ITA Texas Regional Championships. This was hosted by Baylor in Waco, Texas at the Hurd Tennis Center. And this took place October 12th through the 16th. But unfortunately, the Bobcats lost 2 doubles rounds on October 15th, which eliminated them from the tournament on October 15th and cut them short from 1 day. So they weren't able to completely finish out that tournament, but I think they still, even though there was a lot of losses for the women's tennis, I still think they had a very impressive tournament. We mentioned how they were doing in that first tournament because last Friday, this last episode, was they had only done 1 day of that tournament so far, so it was really interesting to see. But they were doing good in singles. They were struggling a little bit in doubles, but overall, I think Texas State women's tennis did an impressive job at that tournament. Bobcats will close off the fall tournament season with the Wildcat Invite in Abilene, Texas. This will be October 27th through the 29th. So this will finish up their fall season, and so make sure to show support for their last tournament that they're going to be having. I just let's go into this next sport. This next sport will be volleyball. And we have a lot to talk about with volleyball, with them having 2 games, both against Southern Miss, dominating both games with the score of, in this first game, 3-1 sets for making it a Texas State win for volleyball. And going against the Golden Eagles, it was kind of a really interesting game. But overall, what were some factors that led into Texas State volleyball winning both games?
I feel like they just had a strong amount of aces to start off with for Texas State. And showing that aggressiveness on their side of the field really strikes fear into the opponent. So I feel like coming out strong for Texas State was really establishing what we came here to do, and that was to win.
Yeah, with that first game, Carly Ferris had a career-high 5 aces, so very impressive, and I can only imagine the morale boost that creates whenever you get that many aces in a game. It really, it's a perk up for the team, and really able to show what they've got, and very impressive by Carly Ferris.
Also wanted to highlight KJ Johnson in that first game. With her 16 kills and 19 digs within the game, she was a huge factor in why Texas State ended up taking that first match with Southern Miss. And it can be a little deceiving looking at both games. Texas State did go 6-1 overall in the sets, which is incredible, by the way. Like,
absolutely.
If you can go 6-1 and almost sweep all your sets, that's actually yes, yes,
You're
6-1.
Right.
Sorry, had to check that real quick. But all the sets for the most part were very close. Southern Miss is a very good team. Texas State were just very on the ball, ready in those final moments within the sets to take and edge all of those sets, which is really cool to see for our girls, especially with some of our newer girls coming into the team, building that chemistry with each other for years to come.
Yeah, it's always been like a neck and neck with KJ Johnson and Samantha Wunsch. Samantha Wunsch just absolutely killing it also. And she got second in kills with 9 kills and 2 blocks in that game. And it's really interesting to see how their dynamic duo has really been able to kind of carry this team and like not only just kills but also just like motivation and that inspiration. So important for a team whenever you have those 2 players that can have great leadership skills and be able to really work together in a fluid way. That's so important for a team to be successful, and KJ Johnson and Samantha Wunsch have been able to really represent those roles so well.
Yeah, I mean, when you come out and watch this team play, you can just see there's a lot of energy. It's a very hungry team, very scrappy, very young, and I feel like that energy always comes through. Sometimes it's very quick out the gate. Sometimes, it comes out in the end, but you always see it with the Texas State Bobcats. It's really fun to watch, and I really recommend people watching volleyball.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great point. And even though it was 6-1, I just wanted to bring up that even though it was 6-1 and Texas State obviously destroyed both games, it wasn't actually like too far away. Looking at this second game, it was all these sets, all 3 sets were like really close. It was a win by 2 for the first 2 sets at 26-24, and then the third set was 25-23 or 22, so win by 3. So even though Texas State won the first 3 sets to win the game, they weren't like super far away. It wasn't a very big point difference for any of these sets, which is very interesting to see how even though there was this massive win, the loss was there was potential. And even though there was that, and looking at this first game, Southern Miss won the first set, and so I can only imagine how, hey, that's stressful. You're going against a team, this is your first time playing against this team in quite a while, and losing that first set, that can be very stressful. But Texas State was able to really surpass that, and then they ended up winning the next 3 sets to win the game. So very impressive. And I also wanted to mention Sophia Childs, and we just noticed her in the second game. She was actually the team leader for most kills at 11 kills. She transferred to Texas State in the spring of 2023. spring 2023 from Wichita State. And so she's been a new player for Texas State, and it's really nice to see her actually be able to show up in these kills because she's really been a new player. She's been doing a lot of help on the other team, the kind of the backhand, a lot of assists and stuff like that. But it's really nice to be able to see her get those kills in. And then Bailey Hanner with 8 blocks, very impressive for that second game. 8 blocks is a very high number for a game, and very impressive on that end. But do you guys have anything else you'd like to add about the Texas State volleyball?
I'll just say this: having covered, the volleyball with our what's called Bobcat Visions on campus that does our broadcasts for them, seeing the team grow over the semesters that I've been watching them is really cool to see, especially with this new squad. I think that Coach Sean Hewitt is doing a great job with these girls, as well as his staff. And you can see that they all get along really well. You can tell the team's meshing, which is what you want with a college team, especially being a mid-major team in general for most of our sports right now. It's good to see those girls taking those steps forward, growing our university's name, but also giving that good image to our university.
Yeah, and so this next game will be Texas State versus South Alabama. This will be October 20th at 6 p.m. and also October 21st at 12 p.m. This will be a home game at the Strahan Arena for both games. This is also the alumni game in honor of the 2003 and 2013 championships winning teams, and it will also be Dig Pink, so make sure to wear pink whenever to attend that. Looking at the history of this, Texas State is 13-5 all-time record against South Alabama, and this last game that they played against them in 2022 was a 3-2 win at the Sun Belt Conference. So going to this game, I think Texas State will be able to, just based off their history, I think they'll be able to win this game. And, I mean, the team's overall doing great, so I think they'll have no doubt, no trouble in being able to make this another win for Texas State. All right, we're going to mention 2 sports that we haven't really talked about at all for the Bobcat Breakdown. And this first sport being hockey. And hockey's really started up their season. They've played a couple of games so far. They just played Texas State versus East Texas Baptist Tigers, and it was a really tough 2 games that they played. Going to their history, they're 3-13 history at a 12-game loss streak against the East Texas Baptist Tigers. So kind of a really rough history that they're going into. In this first game, both games were an away game at Hirsch Memorial Coliseum. But yeah, this first game, they were a 1-12 loss on October 13, and on the second game, they had a 2-8 loss on October 14th. So very tough games, but I think that with this, they're able to really see, hey, where are we struggling? Where can we improve? And from that, really build up and go into their next game, which will be Texas State versus Southern Methodist University, October 20th to 21st. This is a home game, but by home game, I don't mean San Marcos. They play in Austin at Cedar Park. So if you're interested, make sure to go. It's a little bit of a drive away, but hey, there's a lot of people out there. I think hockey is just a great sport to attend. It's very entertaining to watch. So if you've never done it, or if you've been to a couple of hockey games, make sure to go to this. And that's in Austin, Cedar Park, October 20th through the 21st. And then also I wanted to bring up basketball. Basketball starting up their season, so I'll give it over to Casey.
Tayani.
Tayani.
You're good. So basketball season is gonna start off November 6th away at Little Rock. We were Texas State rather was chose 10th in the Sun Belt Conference preseason, so that's pretty exciting. The home opener is going to be November 17th against UTSA, one of our rivals for a while. So that's going to be really interesting to watch, and make sure to come out for that.
And it's in terms of our basketball team. We had kind of an interesting season last season where we had really good moments, but we were also not able to push completely into a winning end to our season. So I think Coach TJ, is it TJ Johnson? right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay, I apologize for that. But, him and his staff are really looking to, bring this team back up to where they think they really should be. And this team, I think, does have a lot of potential to it. There's a lot of excitement around this team, and it's great to see as our program continues to grow what this team is capable of. So.
Yeah, and really just going on this entire season, with this fall season really coming to an end, it's really exciting to see how Texas State, while last week was a little bit of their first really big losing week, to be able to delay that losing week so far, I think Texas State overall has been doing amazing this fall season, and it's going to be really interesting to see how within these next couple of years, if we can grow this to be Texas State to be known as a winning team. So that's going to be really exciting to see. And we're going to be wrapping up this Bobcat Breakdown with just a couple of reminders for our upcoming games. And so we have the Texas State Volleyball versus South Alabama. They'll be happening October 20th at 6 p.m. and October 21st at 12 p.m. Home game at the Strahan Arena. Make sure to wear pink. After that, we have the Texas State Soccer versus South Alabama, October 22nd, an away game. And then after that, we have Texas State Women's Golf. We haven't seen a whole lot of golf within these last couple of weeks. So it'll be really interesting to see how women's and men's golf will be coming up this next week, with women's golf happening on the 22nd and 23rd at the Jim West Challenge, hosted at the Kissing Tree Club in San Marcos. So really close to here. Then after that, we have the men's golf. Clerico and Tulsa, they haven't really played a whole lot of tournaments since the very beginning of the season, so they had like a big gap in between, but it's nice to see them coming back up and be able to represent Texas State. And this will be in Oklahoma from October 23rd to the 24th. After that, we have the Texas State football game versus the Troy Trojans, happening on October 28th at 6 p.m. So remember, there's a bye week, but after that we have Troy Trojans, and that's going to be a big game, and that will really represent, if this is a win or loss, how this season will really end up closing off this season. And that'll be a home game at the Bobcat Stadium. And with that, thanks for joining us in today's episode of the weekly Bobcat Breakdown. As I wrap up, remember to subscribe to the Bobcat Bulletin YouTube channel so that you can stay updated in all things Texas State athletics. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next week.